Hello, Internet.
My name is Kiri Callaghan, and you're watching Curiosity, the vlog where we get nerdy on geek culture. We delve, we investigate, we basically pull a Sherlock. Halloween is almost upon us, and you've already no doubt been scouring your movies and book collection for the scariest tales you can find. In a past episode of Wordplay, the amazing Nika Harper encouraged you to craft your own ghost story. But where does this fascination with specters come from? Why do we eagerly gather around bonfires or cram onto couches or in theaters just to have our spines tingle and hair stand on end? Today we're inspecting the spectered. The concept of a ghost comes from the belief that a person's spirit is separate from their body, and that that spirit may continue living after the person dies. This belief likely first sprung out of the fear of death. Amusingly, this desire to keep on living spawned a fear that the dead would keep on living, and many societies began funeral practices as a means of keeping a spirit from haunting the place. This kind of practice is known as masculismos. Extra precautions were taken for violent deaths. If someone was executed, all of their orifices were plugged up and their limbs were amputated in order to prevent a ghost from returning for vengeance. Seems a little silly. That would just make me more angry. In Malacus, a woman who has died of childbirth is buried with pins stuck through the joints and an egg under the chin or armpits. They believe the dead fly like birds, but that the egg would force out maternal instinct, causing the ghost to stay within the former body. The Omaha tribe slit the soles of the feet of those killed by lightning. In Europe, it was sometimes common for suicides to be buried with a stake in the heart, or upside down, or to cut off the head and place it between the legs. And the Herbert River Aborigines of Australia beat the body until they broke bones and filled incisions with stones. But what started this fear of the dead rising? In the 1st century AD, the great Roman author Pliny the Younger recorded one of the first notable sightings of a ghost. Due to its vivid description, this tale became famous in the heyday of the Roman Empire. Pliny reported the specter of an old man with a long beard rattling chains, haunting his house in Athens. An old man bound by rattling chains haunting a house? Where have I heard that before, Mr. Dickens? One of the most frequently reported ghost sightings in England dates back to the 16th century. Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII's second wife and mother to Elizabeth I, was executed in the Tower of London, having been accused of treason, adultery, incest, and witchcraft. Legend says her last words was a curse on Henry, that he would never have a living son, and that Elizabeth would one day take the throne. Sightings of Boleyn's ghost have been reported at the Tower, as well as various other locations, including her childhood home. As early ghost sightings became more prevalent in society, early ghost stories became a way to instill values, strengthen our connection to history, and to help preserve particular cultures. Storytelling throughout history has always been a way to help define a people's identity and their behavior. Some ghost stories are cautionary tales. In this type of story, the reoccurring theme is one of action and consequence. The ghost returns in these tales because they did something wrong, or someone did something wrong to them. These tales involved morals aimed at making the younger members of the community think about their actions. They tended to provide an ethical message couched in a cautionary tale, warning us what could happen if we take things too far. Teaching by scaring people into believing or behaving a certain way may have been archaic, but it was effective. There is a Seneca Indian ghost story about a fire-eating monster with no body, just a head, that snakes through the village looking for small children to eat. This story was told to make sure that children didn't try to sneak out at night. You remember the boogeyman. So if these stories scare us so much, why do we love them? An overriding theme in many ghost stories is how we deal with our own mortality, whether we're coming from a religious or secular point of view. Oddly enough, ghost stories were often told to comfort and alleviate the fear of death. Tales of spirits of family members or friends to return for some purpose. A characteristic that is often ignored in ghost stories is that they fulfill a very basic need. They help vent the anxiety of life. They sometimes revolve around horror and violence in order to help us cope with the human condition. What is most unusual about these scary tales is they provide comfort. They're just one other avenue we have to face our fears. Ghost stories also reflect the fears and cultural beliefs of the time they originated in. This is especially true in early history when people didn't have answers readily available for the natural occurrences happening around them. This caused anxiety, which sometimes resulted in a ghost story or myth or legend or superstition that helped explain their fears. Another reason we love ghost stories, and they're important to us as a culture, is they act as a kind of escapism along with giving us perspective on our actual lives. Ghost stories offer us a way to be frightened but still remain in control. They help us bond with others, sharing fears that will end as soon as the story does. It's an adrenaline rush, a homebrewed drug high. Ghost stories are an escape into another realm, bringing more fear than your current situation. When you're terrified of monsters or ghouls, you're not worrying about what you have to do tomorrow. Ends up leaving us feeling more safe and less lonely than we were before. At least they used to. There's no moral lesson at the end of The Ring or Nightmare on Elm Street. Evil triumphs for being evil. Some argue that this method is less effective, and the adrenaline is even harder to achieve as there's no relief. Movies resort to scare tactics such as jumping out at you, and at the end you don't feel safe. At the end they want you to know that whatever you just saw is coming for you next. What do you think about the evolution of these stories? By trying to keep adrenaline going non-stop with no moral compass, have they become less effective? What do you think about the sightings that we have record of? Or do you not believe in ghosts at all? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, or hop over to the Geek and Sundry forums where we'll be having a discussion. If you're looking for more Halloween vlogger fun, check out Dale Kingsmill as she explores Greek mythology, or take a crash course in writing with Nika Harper. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, stay curious.